Good evening. I am Maureen Bellino, the District Clerk for the Putnam Valley Central School District. I welcome you to our reorganizational business meeting, but prior to the start of that, we will be holding a public hearing. But our first order of business is to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. So, as noted, our first order of business this evening is a public comment related to our district-wide safety plan. This has been made available to the community for the prerequisite 30 days, and this is just an opportunity if there's any input specific to that district safety plan before its adoption. Any comment? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll start our reorganizational meeting. The first order of business tonight is to administer our oath of office to our newly elected trustee and a returning trustee. Our returning trustee is Ms. Barbara Parmalee, and she'll be sworn in tonight for a 3-year term which begins today and ends on June 30th, 2024. Barbara, can you recite the oath as it's before you? Yeah.
I, Barbara Parmalee, do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Trustee, Board of Education, according to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Barbara. We will now administer the oath of office to our new trustee, Helen Horvitz, who will be sworn in for a 3-year term, which also ends on June 30th, 2024. Ms. Horvitz, could you read the oath that's before you?
I, Helen Horvitz, do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of a trustee of the Board of Education according to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Helen. Welcome to the board. The next order of business is to call for nominations for President of the Putnam Valley Board of Education. Do we have any nominations?
Yes, I would like to nominate Ms. Barbara Parmalee as President of the Board of Education.
Do we have a second for that nomination?
I second.
Ms. Parmalee, would you accept that nomination?
Yes?
Louder, Mrs. Parmalee, louder.
Do we have any other nominations? No. If there are no other nominations, we ask for a vote. All those in favor of Ms. Parmalee as President of the Board of Education?
Aye.
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 Any nays? I don't think Ms. Parmalee voted, did she?
Am I allowed? Aye.
And I need then you to stand and recite your oath of office.
I, Barbara Parmalee, do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of President, Board of Education, according to the best of my ability.
Ms. Parmalee, you now take the seat as the President of the Board.
It's musical chairs now.
Oh, I can say here. But I don't think I should let poor Helen.
Supposed to
sit
look
over
so
her.
excited.
No, I
about
was
it.
going to try to too, but yeah, that'd be a good idea, I think. I'll take this. Yes, I know, I will. I'll bring Barbara's over.
Okay, help her out.
We'll talk about this later. The next order of business will be for a Vice President of the Board, so we'll ask Ms. Parmalee to ask for nominations for Vice President. Stand here just a minute. Ask for nominations for Vice President.
Okay, I'd like to open up nominations for Vice President.
I would like to nominate Mr. Joseph Ferraro as Vice President of the Board of Education.
Second?
Questions or comments?
Mr. Farrar, will you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Now we do the vote.
Okay, so
All those in favor.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Ferraro will now take his oath of office as Vice President.
I, Joseph Ferraro, do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Vice President of the Board of Education according to the best of my abilities.
Superintendent, next.
Okay, the next order of business is the President of the Board will administer the oath of office to Dr. Jeremy Luft, Superintendent of Schools. Does he read it himself?
Yes, he does.
Okay.
I, Jeremy Luft, do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the Office of Superintendent of Schools of the Putnam Valley Central School District effective July 1st, 2021, according to the best of my ability.
The next order of business, I know there's like all these probably official ways to say this, is to approve the meeting minutes of June 17th, 2021.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay. The next order of business is, that's this reinstatement? Visitors to the school?
Yeah, it is information. So the next two items are just really for public information. There'll be resolutions later in the agenda to approve two policy changes. The first policy is a reinstatement of our visitor policy. For obvious reasons, during COVID, we made changes to the visitor policy, who was allowed in school and what reasons why. So we're hopeful for a normal return to school next year, and again, hopeful that this policy will be back in place. So we're just looking to reinstate our visitor policy as it's written in our policy manual. And then Ms. Figuerella, our business official, is going to talk about some of the proposed changes to our purchasing policy.
Microphone.
Figuerella, and I am just reviewing our purchasing policy and making an update to that policy by adding the following information straight from the Controller's Office. What's being added is the board authorizes the award of purchase contracts on the basis of best value. So it's just another method of accepting, bids and RFPs under the best value method. And when it's in the best interest of the school district, as defined in state finance law, section 163, best value means optimizing quality, cost, and efficiency. The basis for best value shall reflect, whenever possible, objective and quantifiable analysis, and may also take into consideration small businesses or certified minority-owned or women-owned businesses. So it's just another consideration we can take when we're accepting contracts or accepting and bids and RFPs, requests for proposals for services or commodities. When the school district determines to award a purchase contract on the basis of the best value, the bid specification shall identify the criteria and rating system that's to be utilized in the making of the best value determination. The purchasing agent will maintain documentation reflecting the criteria and rating system, as well as the evaluation of each bidder's bid in connection with the same. Also would be adding purchasing through a piggybacking, through or piggybacking onto the contract of another governmental entity. So like when another entity accepts a bid or a request for proposal, we're allowed to use their acceptance and piggyback onto their bid or RFP in order to contract for services. And so basically, that's what that's saying. These contracts do not require written or verbal proposals. Written documentation will be maintained to include the following contracts led by the United States or any agency thereof. The contract number and name of government agency will be maintained. So we would have to adopt all of the same. It would have to be exactly what they're outlining in their accepted bid or RFP, that we would have to be willing to accept those terms for ourselves. And it goes on to say what constitutes an emergency and when we can use those terms to adopt a contract or RFP. Board of Education will pass a resolution to declare an emergency prior to the purchase and/or commencement of work if feasible. When it's not feasible, the superintendent or designee must be notified that an emergency situation exists, approval to make necessary purchase. So this part of it just says that before we execute an emergency contract, it would need to be a resolution by the board to say that the situation is actually an emergency. So that's what this section is adding. I believe that's it. Oh, it goes on to also say that we can piggyback onto, by using BOCES contracts and RFPs. We had to specify that specifically, not just other governmental agencies. We had to name them. So we named BOCES. And that's it. Those are the changes, and I would like for us to be able to adopt this tonight, if possible. Does anybody have any questions? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, hold on, he's got to come up to the mic, he has a question.
Please.
I just want to know what the benefit. This is actually part of when it's the agenda items comment section, right?
Well, he can
It's the next item, you can ask the question, as soon as she's done, the next
Is that the
section will
next
be
section?
questions or comments on this.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, just one,
I can answer your question.
Okay.
all right,
Want me to answer the question? Or?
well, if you're done with your thing, let's just do the next agenda item.
I am done with the presentation, so.
All right, so why don't we just do the next
What
agenda
did I-
item, and then
Okay,
you could
so-
stand right there, so then you can answer his question.
So the next agenda item is public comment on agenda items. If you'd come to the microphone and identify yourself and then ask your question, please.
You're up, yep.
Sir?
Hi, Ms. Louis Peduto. I just wanted to know what the benefit to the district would be to adopt that contractual language.
Like the best value?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the best value part of it is something the Office of the State Comptroller offers school districts and other governmental agencies to be able to use that valuation system. So, for instance, if we had several contractors, let's just take buying a vehicle, for instance. So if there's one that we can buy that costs $45,000, or there's a vehicle that we can buy, the same exact vehicle for $40,000 that's offered by another vendor, but the gas mileage on the $45,000 vehicle is going to save us money over 5 years, the life of, certain number of miles on the vehicle. We'll be allowed to factor that in to the purchase and say that overall, even though that vehicle is going to cost us $45,000 and not $40,000 to the lowest responsible bidder, we can factor that in and say that that vehicle is going to save us more money in the long run. So that would be considered what a best value purchase is. And piggybacking is just being able to take advantage of other entities who have already vetted vendors through an RFP or a bidding, competitive bidding or RFP service. And without us having to do all the advertising and going through another whole set of expenses just to find the lowest responsible bidder, we're allowed to say go to another governmental agency, Mayapack School District, or the town of Putnam Valley, and say we would like to use the same vendor you've already bid out so that we can take advantage of the same savings. Right now, if we don't have that in there, we do it, but we're not supposed to do it without having the language in there, so.
So I think just to summarize, the district is under very stringent purchasing policies set by the state in terms of who we can purchase from, what we need in place, who we need quotes from, what's on state contract. So really, our goal with this purchasing plan is really just to create additional flexibility for us to, if the state contract price is lowest, but it's going to cost us more to get the vehicle here, common sense would be like, well, if we pay $1,000 more for the vehicle and get it in Mayapack, as opposed to paying $10,000 to transport it from Albany, even though it's $1,000 more, common sense is, in the long run, it's going to cost us less to get it from a local dealer as opposed to from the state. So it's just providing extra flexibility in what are otherwise really stringent policies we have to follow for purchasing. Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Howard London, how you doing? Is this in any way tied to or in relation to the upgrades to the 3 schools, the $11 million?
No.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
Well, any other comments on agenda items? Okay, then under new business, I would like item number 1, please.
Resolved on the recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, Board of Education hereby appoints David Kantrowitz as Director of Physical Education, Athletics, and Health Services in the Director of Physical Education, Athletics, and Health Services tenure area, effective July 6th, 2021, with a salary of $145,000 prorated to serve a 4-year probationary term effective July 6th, 2021, through close of business on July 5th, 2025. Mr. Kantrowitz holds following New York State certifications: School District Leader Professional Certificate, School Building Leader Initial Certificate, Physical Education and Health Education Professional Teaching Certifications.
Second?
Questions or comments?
I just want to acknowledge that David is here with us with his wife this evening, sitting up front. David will be joining us from New York City, but he's no stranger to the area, being born and raised in Monroe Woodbury. David's already begun his transition process, even though he doesn't officially begin here in Putnam Valley until July 6th. And just a little background on the process: David emerged from a pool of over 40 candidates, 15 screening interviews, and 4 finalists. David impressed throughout the interview process, and we're looking forward to officially welcoming him as a member of the Putnam Valley School District and seeing all the great things he could bring to us. So right after they vote, we can clap.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Congratulations.
Are we still doing COVID and we're not shaking hands, or are we
Yes,
just
still
going to
like it.
wave today?
Yeah. Congratulations.
We'll just wait.
Would you like to make your official acceptance speech now, or you want to hold off? All right, congratulations. You owe your wife dinner now, though, because she sat here and listened to us. Thank you.
Number 2, please.
Resolved on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools to accept the resignation of School Monitor Michelle Riley from the district effective the close of the 2020-21 school year, as per document number 3-22 attached to the agenda and official minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. Number 3, please.
Resolved upon recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools to accept the resignation of School Lunch Monitor Olivia Roman from the district effective June 29th, 2021, as per document number 22/22 attached to the agenda and official minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Question, oh, sorry.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye. It's
Opposed?
11-year habit.
Okay. Number 4.
Recommended action, be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby terminates the employment of Eric Keogh, a probationary school monitor, effective June 23rd, 2021.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. Number 5.
Be resolved that the board hereby authorizes the president to execute an agreement with Dr. Luft, which sets forth the terms and conditions of his employment as superintendent of schools during the period of July 1st, 2021, June 30th, 2026, a copy of which agreement shall be incorporated by reference within the minutes of this meeting as document number 2122.
Second?
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. Number 6,
Resolved on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools to approve the Kinder Camp Program for 2021, August 23rd through August 26th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., including the required staff positions of 2 teachers, 2 teacher aides or teaching assistants, and 1 nurse.
Second, sorry.
questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. Number 7,
Okay. Resolved that due to the governor of the state of New York determining that a state of emergency no longer exists in New York State due to the COVID-19 virus, the Board of Education hereby readopts and therefore reinstates the provisions of Board Policy 5300-65, visitors to the school.
Second.
questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. Number 8,
Resolved on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools to approve the first reading and waiving the second reading of Policy 6310, Purchasing, as document number 19/22, attached to the agenda and the official minutes of the meeting.
Second.
questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. Number 9,
Resolved on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools to adopt the revised building plans and district-wide safety plan as per document number 222, attached to the agenda and official minutes of this meeting.
Second?
questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. The consent agenda, number 1.
Resolved to approve consent agenda for personnel and other appointments as per items 2 through 33 as presented to this board at this meeting.
A second.
Questions or comments?
I have lots of comments. So we are appointing the various annual positions. We're appointing Maureen Bellino as district clerk. We are appointing Jill Figuerella as district treasurer, Jeannie DeNike as assistant treasurer and assistant purchasing agent. We're appointing Agata Semsky as tax collector, Maureen Bellino as district records officer. We're appointing Natalie Doherty to all sorts of things like the ESSA coordinator, Title IX officer, Title VII officer, Title VI officer, McKinney-Vento liaison, the neglected delinquent transition liaison, the foster care student point of contact, migrant student data point of contact, district DASA coordinator, district residency designee. We're appointing Jackie Levine also as Title VI, VII, and IX officer. We are appointing building DASA coordinators. We are appointing a chief medical officer. We are appointing our dentist. We are appointing our external auditors. Hold on, not quite done. Halfway, no, more than halfway, I think. We're appointing, did I mention, Sean Perlson Legal Services. We're appointing our internal auditor. We're appointing, what are we appointing? We're appointing the several individuals to the Board of Registration for our elections this year. We are appointing hearing officials and verification officials for the free and reduced meals program. We are appointing 504 committee chair people. We are appointing 504 coordinators. We are appointing various district teachers as tutors for students requiring home instruction. We are appointing staff members as chaperones for various events throughout the school year. We are appointing, I'll mention his name because he's making me look good on camera, Dan Mahoney as the meeting videographer. We're appointing CSE and CPSC chairpersons for the summer and for the 21-22 school year. We are approving staff members for summer testing for students as needed. We are approving transportation summer workers. We are approving operations and technology summer workers, and we are approving additional hours for staff members for additional responsibilities. We are approving unpaid time for several staff members. We are appointing a 10-month and school calendar personnel for the 21-22 school year. We are approving the extended school year program staff list. We are approving 21-22 clubs and other positions, advisors and stipends.
That's it.
And I think that's it.
That's it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes.
Can I say I miss Mr. Cohen?
We have a consent agenda, other business, number 1, please. I don't know whose turn
That's
it
me.
is.
I got it.
Resolved to approve consent agenda, other business, items 2 through 20, as presented at this board meeting.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Okie dokie.
You want me to do it, or do you have it?
I can do it.
Okay.
So we are making the various CSE, CPSE placements. We are designating the banks that we utilize for the 21-22 school year. We are designating the amount of petty cash funds and who holds it in each building for the 21-22 school year. We are authorizing the district clerk to advertise and open bids as needed for the 21-22 school year. We are resolving to designate the Journal News and Putnam County News and Recorder as the official newspapers of the district. We are authorizing district membership in the various professional organizations such as the New York State School Boards Association, Westchester Putnam School Boards Association, et cetera, et cetera. We are granting permission for the superintendent of schools to join the following many organizations: American Association of School Administrators, Lower Hudson Council of School Superintendents, Lower Hudson Education Coalition, et cetera, et cetera. We are, I don't know how to summarize this, resolving that we use a web filter to ensure internet safety for our students, specifically Lightspeed web filter, so we can monitor, keep access of unsafe material away from our children and monitor that use. We are authorizing the board president or board vice president to appoint impartial hearing officers as needed. Okay, we are appointing the procedure or confirming the procedure of permitting pupils in grades, not permitting pupils in grade no lower than 7th grade to compete on interscholastic athletic teams, and using the procedure to have them evaluated to do so, the 7th grade and older. We are readopting all district policies with specific readoption of purchasing authority, parental involvement, investments, code of conduct, and student attendance. We are appointing and allowing the superintendent to offer into agreement with bond counsel services for the school year, and to enter into contracts with the Putnam County Sheriff Department for the services of student resource officer. We are entering into an agreement with fiscal advisors and marketing to serve as independent financial advisors to the district. We are entering into agreement with KG&D architectural firms for their services as needed. We are entering into an agreement with the Great American Insurance Company. We are entering into an agreement for storage tank liability insurance. We are approving fund balance reserve transfer. We are authorizing agreement to, oh, we already did that. Oh, to provide, is
Medical
this also
examination.
medical?
Yeah.
Medical services, and that is all we're doing right now.
And for the community, this is why it's called a reorganization meeting. This happens every year where we have these laundry lists of things that we do on an annual basis. So this is a unique situation where we've got 55 pieces of consent agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. It is now the portion of the meeting where members of the public may comment on any topic. Is there any?
Good.
Maureen, any questions?
What?
Yeah, we'll do the in-person first, and I know we have one electronic one.
Careful.
Howard, you just introduce yourself again when you come up. Thanks.
We have short attention.
Howard London, 12 Holly Street, Putnam Valley. Proud father of a soon-to-be 7-year-old second-grade daughter. At the last meeting, there was a number of discussions specifically about CRT and if it was going to be in the curriculum. A little back and forth, from the crowd. Good discussions. You said some things, Dr. Luft, which certainly made me feel a little bit more hopeful. Some things have happened since that have made me feel less hopeful, and I just wanted to go over a few of them very quickly and just explain where it is I'm coming from and what my intentions are. So, the listening session that we attended was not really the forum to discuss this specific topic. I was unaware of that at the time. Some people on one side was able to make some comments, and then there was a response. But there wasn't really a discussion, and that wasn't the forum for it. And I understand that now, as the meeting was ending. I understood it. The listening session was for the specific topics that you wanted to discuss at the time and get our feedback about those specific topics. So I understand that. But what concerns me is that there's a significant lack of a dialogue that explains what people's goals are. And I will speak for myself and for my wife. My goal in my opposition to CRT and racial essentialism and intersectionality and hierarchies of power that accompany that. The reason why I don't want that to be part of the curriculum is I feel it goes against your, when I say your, I mean your stated goal of, we'll leave equity out based on last time, but certainly inclusion and diversity. Two ideals that I wholeheartedly support. Okay, I think inclusion and diversity certainly have merit, and all children, regardless of race, religion, creed, ethnicity, what have you, should be given the same opportunities to flourish in this district and in every single district in this country. There is not, in my mind, any legitimate reason why a child who goes to school should not be given the same opportunity to grow and flourish and have their innate talents buttressed by the educators that they come in contact with, the administrators that they come in contact with. So what I'm hoping for is that the curriculum will be able to attain that. The curriculum will be able to give every single child an equal opportunity to learn and grow and come together and be inclusive of one another and to celebrate each other's diversity of thought, each other's diversity of background. and here's the hook, without castigating any one group of people, race of people, for the sins of the past. Personally, my great-great-great-grandfather was a bugler and fought in the Civil War for the North, a fact that I'm very proud of. But that has nothing to do with me. I could be the worst racist out there just because my great-great-great-grandfather was an amazing man at a very difficult time in our nation's history. I am my own person now. I'm glad to say that I'm not a racist. I'm glad to say that I find racism abhorrent in every single possible way. And I look at people who see racism as a benefit or as anything positive, I look at them with disdain. Everyone has the right to feel how they want to feel, and it's a free country, you could speak your mind. I don't want to be associated with those people. But again, but the point I'm trying to make is that this country, we all know, because we've all been taught in school growing up, that there have been dark spots that lasted many decades at a time, and that through the mechanisms of the Constitution and the Declaration, well, the Declaration and then confounded by the Constitution, that as a society we were able to move forward and be better. I believe that is the lesson that should be taught to our children, that bad things happened, that people in power made decisions at the time which was native to the time. Doesn't excuse it. As we stand here in 2021, we can look back and say, that was evil. I certainly wish slavery was not a part of this country. I certainly believe that legalized, mandated segregation in the South was not part of our country's history, but it was. And our students need to know that. I was taught it. I grew up in Rockland County, Clarkstown High School North, Felix Vesta Junior High, Little Torrey Elementary. I learned that. Every child should know the history of our country. Every child should know that as a nation, we were able to right wrongs of the past. That the majority of the country, as the decades progressed and proceeded, saw that these evils were in fact evil, and they should no longer be a part of our society. Knowing that is the history of our country, to incorporate in the curriculum or in lessons ideas like white privilege, which at the very least is a very controversial topic.
Can I interrupt you for a sec?
Sure.
With your permission, I don't know. I think I could save you time. I think the way you outlined it, I don't see any misalignment between what you just explained and how you explained it and what our intentions are. Okay. I'm on board with what you said. I can tell you right now, this whole concept of white privilege or identifying white students as oppressors, that's not going to happen. Right? It's not happening. It never has, and it never will happen here. That's not our intention. I see that as a divisive way, as a way to separate students. Do intellectuals and graduate school students want to grapple with those concepts? I'm fine with it. Is there a time and a place for those conversations? I'm sure there is. But I don't believe those conversations, the time and the place for those conversations is in our schools, is in K-12 schools and public schools. So where you started in terms of how we view history We certainly have every intention to provide multiple perspectives, an accurate depiction of history, but I'm not asking for our children to defend the actions of their great-great-great-great-grand, right? That's not going to happen. So I think what you're hoping is going to happen, I think, is right in line with what our intentions are. And before we go into sort of down this other path, I can tell you now that that stuff's not going to happen.
Okay. And I appreciate you saying that. And if that's how the board feels, I certainly appreciate that as well. I will end it based on this hope that I have, because this was the other thing that made me less hopeful prior to coming to the meeting. And this goes back to the listening session. And it actually, more than the listening session, it goes back to the last meeting we had. I just, as best as I could, and it wasn't really that great, but as best as I could, I wanted to explain to you my perspective and how I felt. I don't understand, I don't know what people who disagree with me, how they feel and what they want taught. And they have every single right, as I do, to ask for their values to be included in the curriculum. I only wish I knew what they were, because I don't think this allows us to have a healthy dialogue. I don't think there's a lot of confusion. Okay, so last time we had a slight outburst, and it was a little funny, and it was, no big deal. And then two parents came up and said, I want you to go further. I applaud you guys for possibly bringing this in, and I want you to go further. I don't even know what that means, and I don't think that my concern is that as parents, and this is not really, your responsibility. It's community members talking to other community members. But I'm thinking maybe you guys can foster some sort of, or recommend some sort of listening session type meeting, because I would really like to understand what it is some of the parents who disagree with me on, and again, they have every right to do so, what it is they do want. Because maybe we're just talking past each other, and that's certainly not good for our kids. Like, we are at a school board meeting to find out what you guys are planning to educate our children. And I think we should all be on the same page that our children's education is the most important thing. And if someone disagrees with me, they have every right to, and I respect their disagreement. I will disagree with it, but I respect their disagreement. But I don't even know what the disagreement is, and I don't even know if you guys do. Do you know, based on what I'm saying, what the disagreement is? And just to finish up, because I don't want to take forever all night and be a chaza at the microphone, is there a way that we could maybe create some sort of listening session type thing where you're the head of it, and we can respectfully discuss what our hopes are for our children and what our intentions are in the different lessons we would like to see incorporated? Because if we're going to be yelling at each other and calling each other's names, our kids are going to see this, our kids are going to hear it, and then they're going to be doing that to each other, and I don't think that's very productive in any way. I'm certainly not here to bully anybody. I don't want you guys to feel like I'm bullying you if I'm, when I come up and I speak. I'd like us all we're all members of the community. I'd like to see the community thrive. I'd like to see us all get together and respect each other. Disagree all we want. We could have disagreements, but disagree respectfully. And I was wondering if that's something you guys could try to help foster, so that we could at least know where each other is coming from. Because right now, I don't have any idea.
Okay, thank you. So to answer your first question, the answer is absolutely yes, right? So we will have a public forum dedicated to that topic.
Okay.
Right? We'll have processes in place. We're going to do it in a kind and cordial manner. Be respectful of each other, but the answer is yes. We will absolutely have that conversation at some point, likely this summer, right?
Okay.
It's my belief, and take it no more than my belief, that I believe the two sides are much closer together than either realizes. I could speak again for myself. Nobody in this community, nobody has ever come to me and asked me to teach what you're fearful of.
Okay.
Right? Nobody has made that request on either side of the argument. So it's not necessarily that that is something that the other side of this argument is pushing for, right? Nobody's come to me and said, I think our students should be taught about white privilege. It's never happened. I'm not saying it won't, but it's
Right.
never happened. So I think at the end of the day, all parents want what's best for their children.
Agreed.
And I think that there's a respectful dialogue that we can have to decide how to best move forward in a way that works for everyone in this community. And that's certainly my hope.
Thank you very much for
Thank you.
listening. I appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Michelle Caratoro. I think the problem, for me anyway, is I don't know what the specifics are. Will there be materials used for this diversity, equity, and inclusion program? How will this work in the classroom?
So there is no program, and there are no materials that are being disseminated. Right now, teachers are being asked to consider how they're teaching their content. So maybe it's easier if I provide some examples. So an example of how this has been working, or what we've been working on, is making sure like the literature we read in books represents diverse backgrounds, right? Is every book we read in elementary school, is the main character a little white boy, right? If it is, I would say that's a problem, right? There's many races, ethnicities, backgrounds, socioeconomics. There's lots of diversity within our community, and I think our resources should reflect that diversity. So I don't consider that's not a program. It's not something we're bringing in. It's just a way that we're working to make sure, to Howard's point, all children are provided an opportunity to excel, to see themselves in our resources. So it's that type of work. Is there systems in place in our school district that prevent minority students from taking high-level classes, right? That's something that we would work on internally, right? Is there something we could do to make sure that our highest level courses reflect the diversity of our community? Our community is much more socioeconomically diverse than anything else. And that's a fact. And I think that a factor has a huge influence on student performance. So we have to make sure, are we providing opportunities for all students to excel in those grades? Those are the type of things that are going on. We're not going out and buying a program. We're not bringing in some outside agency to write new curriculum. None of that stuff is happening right now. Our
Well, that's
teachers
the
are having
question, right?
conversations about how do we improve our instruction, how do we teach history through sort of multiple perspectives so students can make an informed decision. But it's certainly not how do we teach history in a way that divides our students. That's most certainly not what's going on.
Now, just out of curiosity, so the teachers are up to their own, how they work this program, whatever they're doing?
No, I mean, our teachers always work under the oversight of our principals and assistant principals in their buildings. They work as a grade level. That people are not sort of on an island by themselves. They
Right.
talk about this within a team of their colleagues, and they decide how to best move forward. We have a director that's responsible for curriculum instruction, and she reports to me. So at the end of the day, if someone does something wrong,
Right.
you could always come blame me.
Okay.
Right? It's
Right.
always on my shoulders. So I accept that, and that's part of my position. But I have every bit of respect and appreciation for my teachers, and they'll do the right thing, and they'll make professional decisions, and they'll treat all students the same.
Okay.
Any other comments?
I know there was one write-in one, but is anyone else in the audience?
Sure, that's fine.
I'll let you. I'll consider the second part after the first.
I can do the second part, because it's kind of
Joke.
the same. Well, for
Go ahead.
CRT, there was a a book that some students read in 3rd grade that was talking about the KKK and white power and had pictures and stuff. Do you know anything about that?
I do not.
Okay, so that's one thing. And second, there was an incident at the middle school last Thursday that seemed like it was brushed under the rug. Do you know anything about that?
I am aware of what happened. The incident was never really an incident, and it was immediately acknowledged as not being an incident. I do know that there was social media discussion about it, but there was no, from a district perspective, there was no incident. It was never anything behind it. We immediately react. We did an assessment like we do anytime something like that happens, and it was found totally unfounded. So the parents of the individuals involved were contacted, as we always do, but it didn't, in my opinion, warrant a public statement because there was never any risk. There was nothing associated with it.
Is there a normal school policy on that?
Sure. I mean, there's tons of policies, code of conduct policies, but again, it was the determination of the school that the offense didn't violate the code of conduct. For middle school kids, if we reacted every time a middle school kid says something that they regret saying, there would be no one in class. So I think we, again, use our professional determination to decide what warrants sort of something that there should be consequences for, and what's something that a student immediately apologizes and says, that was a dumb thing to say, I didn't mean anything by it. We do our assessment, we confirm that there's no threat, there's nothing going on, and then we just continue. But if you hear something like that, you're at home and you have concerns, don't ever hesitate to reach out to the building. The principal, the assistant principal, anyone would have gladly helped explain that to you. So,
My concern is the next day if that person does show up with something.
right, but again, we take all situations like that serious. So the police were involved, our psychologist was involved, our administrators were involved. It was just immediately determined that there was it wasn't that we just ignored it. It was we immediately determined that there was no actual risk. And that's why it didn't go any further. So we treat everything in-house until we know otherwise.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you want to deal with the online question?
Mo, do you want to read the public one? Sorry.
Ms. Kimberly Garay wrote, I'm writing to the board to ask what changes to curriculum in regards to social justice in the middle school that the principal referenced in a message on the website. Have we contracted with a company that provides our base curriculum? Thank you for any insight you can provide.
So, I think we've pretty much answered this question. We have not contracted with a consultant to come in and do this work, and I think, again, just speaks to the work that our staff is not just doing, but continue to do in terms of making sure that all students are provided an opportunity to be successful within our schools and in our curriculum. So there's nothing separate than anything we've already spoken about in terms of what will be implemented. There's no program that's being brought in, and there's no outside consultant that's been hired. Any other questions? Thank you.
Any comments from board members on any topic? Graduation was beautiful. Couldn't ask for better weather. Somebody said they felt a drop, but I did not. So I thought it was gorgeous. I'd like to thank all of our staff, from our custodians, our bus drivers, our teachers, our teacher aides, our assistants, our administrators for a very difficult year. And for continuously stepping up in unbelievable situations to make sure that our children came to school, arrived safely, went home safely, were safe when they were here, and learned. Upcoming meetings?
So no, we have one more meeting scheduled this summer. It's tentatively scheduled for August 12th, although I know there's a possibility that date may change. So as usual, the notice will be given out to the public as to exactly when that meeting happens, and then in September, we return to our normal meeting schedule.
Okay, I'd like a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Have a safe summer.
Enjoy your summer.